Today, you're gonna meet a lady who turned her love of bubble tea and acai bowls into Boba and Berry here in Tampa, Florida.
Hello and bienvenidos to Boba and Berry. My name is Yamille and I am the owner of the shop. I'm located here in South Tampa, Florida, and you're welcome to come and visit me anytime.
I think we should start by letting our viewers know what was your inspiration for opening your bubble tea shop?
I've always had that entrepreneur in me, and I used to own, well I still own, a snow cone and cotton candy catering service. But unfortunately when COVID hit, all the event situation, everything kind of like, unfortunately kind of like closed or shut down. So I had time to reinvent myself. I've always liked boba. I've had it, 10 years ago I tried it in Canada, and for some reason, I don't know exactly when, or I don't remember the moment, I thought, okay, I think we should bring some boba to South Tampa. So, I had enough time to think about it, make a plan, and here I am, reinventing myself.
And I know that you're a bit of a world traveler like myself. Can you share some of the places you've been? And also part of that question is, did you try boba like every single country you went to?
I have not tried boba every single place I have been, but the very first time I tried boba, I remember it was in Canada, in Toronto. I have been to the Middle East. I've been in the UAE, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I have been all around several countries in Europe, but mostly I've been in California, although it's part here of the States, which there is a lot of boba in California. I just fell in love once I tried it. I was like, this is my drink. That's me.
Are you more of a fruit tea or milk tea fan personally?
I am more of like a green tea, fruity tea. Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
For sure.
And do you prefer like the chewy boba or the more popping bubbles or jellies?
You know what? There was a point where I was like always a popping boba, and then I went into the regular tapioca, but I think I'm now back into like the popping boba.
And there's so many great varieties of the popping pearls.
Yes.
So many flavors and styles and types, and it just goes so well with all the different fruit combinations for fruit teas, I find.
Every drink is a different experiment.
Yeah, exactly. How long approximately did it take you from start to finish, so conception of the idea to open your shop, to actually getting the shop, to fitting out the shop, and then to training maybe yourself and the staff up, to then opening? What's kind of a timeline?
I thought about opening the shop probably back at the end of November, kind of like lockdown, we're not sure what's happening for the holidays. So that came into my mind. I definitely decided to move forward in January. So by January, I had my idea and the passion. I'm very like passion driven. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I just felt it inside and I'm like, I'm doing it. So I started working on it in January, and I recently opened a month ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you had the idea in like November, December time, kind of
Yes.
through the holidays. Really got passionate about it in January. You accelerated your thought process.
I went, all in.
So it's January, February, March, and then you opened in April.
Yes.
So that was really quick, actually.
I don't know if it was my passion, but I thought it's like, oh, I can do everything in a month. But then you realize that, there's contractors in here, things take a long time, things don't happen exactly the way you plan. So yeah, it took me longer than I expected, but it's still pretty fast.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think for me as well, I thought, oh, I can get my shop up and running in a month. But then some of the equipment gets delayed, and then some of the stock that you want, you're not able to get it right away. And like you said, the contractors, the builders, the plumbers, the electricians.
Yeah.
Then you've got the city council, you need to get a permit, approval, they need to come in and check it out, health and safety needs to come in.
And the appointments take a long time, especially throughout COVID. So calling like the health inspector, sometimes it might, not be the next day, but you'll have to make an appointment, and that keeps delaying things. But, it's all worth it. Well, I hope it is. I've only been in business for a month, but so far it is worth it.
Good. And price-wise, did you set a budget? Did you go over budget in the end, or did you come under budget? Budget-wise, how did that go for you?
I had a budget, and I feel like I went a little bit over budget because there are so many options, and once you start choosing and looking into things, there's always something better, and you always like, oh, I want that, and I want like the brighting or like the big sign, or I want the LED sign, or I want like a better machine. I went just a little bit, I was very conscious, but I went a little bit over budget, and there were also expenses unexpected. I wasn't expecting, you know, like sealing the roof or, you know, some other things that come out, but I just went a little bit over budget.
I think for my first shop that happened. We had kind of planned everything out in advance, knew exactly what everything was going to cost, and although I didn't go for like the premium items to begin with, there were unexpected things.
They are unexpected things.
Yes.
Yes.
And especially when, like, let's say for example, a contractor says, you know, this is how long it's going to take, this is the equipment that I need and the materials needed, and then something goes wrong with the planning department, with the city, so then they have to redo the blueprints, for example.
Correct.
Just the smallest things will come up.
Yes.
So I think a good piece of advice perhaps would be to let people know, you know, set your budget, plan it out in advance, but make sure you have somewhere
Correct.
you can get extra money from just in
Yes.
case you end up needing
Yes.
it.
Because there's always, and I thought, I was like, I have it down to the ground, like perfectly planned, you know, just in case, and I still didn't plan for that other just in case.
And a small example of equipment that might be needed and useful, but not really needed. And I always give this example to people when I'm doing coaching online. There's something called a fructose machine. Do you have one here?
You know what? I bought one,
Okay.
and I end up not keeping it. I saw your video
Yeah.
in YouTube, and I saw that yours were pumping. And when I got it, I was learning all about it, and I was doing research that I would have to rinse that thing and wash it, and then it's already all sticky. So I decided not to keep it. But I am having second thoughts now. I am considering on repurchasing that item. A lot of people are coming in and they want like 75% sugar, 50%, 25%, and I feel like the machine will help you keep like a standard or like a more constant, like a constant taste to the drink. But I don't know, and I can't judge because I still don't own it.
Okay.
So I just go like a full ounce, half an ounce, or a quarter of an ounce.
Right.
So I can't tell you much about the machine, but it's something that it's in the back of my mind, and
Okay.
maybe I'll
So
get
it's
it.
something that you may repurchase, but
Yes.
in the beginning it saved you a lot of money by actually
Yes.
returning that item.
Correct,
Exactly.
correct. I never actually even opened it because
Oh,
I
okay,
saw the
perfect.
video and I'm like, maybe I don't need it, and I'm over budget. Like the electric, I had some issues here, and we had to like put more outlets than I expected. So I was like, maybe we should just not keep these for now.
Yeah, well that totally makes sense.
Yes.
You know, the pump method worked really well for my shops. We didn't really have any problems with it in the UK, but I do notice in other countries, and especially in parts of America, they do have kind of a swinging percentage of sugar. Some of them are even as intricate as like 5%, 10%. I mean, they go up in increments of like 5 or 10,
Oh, wow.
whereas other ones, like you said, people say 25%, 50%, or 75%. But for my area and my customer base and the people who were ordering, it wasn't even in their mind to even be able to order it on a different sugar level. Occasionally people would come in and say, oh, can I have less sugar? Like I'm on a diet or whatever. And we're like, oh yeah, no problem, we can do that for you. But the majority of the people didn't really ask. However, I do know for your area, I drive around, I see these people, they're working out, they look pretty fit. So when they come in here, they're probably a little more conscious about their sugar intake, and so that's probably why you get that question a lot
Yes,
as well.
I do. Most of the question is, can I just get 50%? And it's like, yes, we can get 50%. That's kind of like the more common number. More than like 25 or 75 is like, you know, just less sugar. And I immediately do 50%. And they seem to be very happy. They like it.
Yeah, that's good.
So I don't, it's not like I listed the 75 as 50 or the 25. They just ask me for less sugar and I do 50.
So we already kind of covered financial, you know, going over or under budget with that. But what about in areas of things that were unexpected that you wish you would have known before you opened a boba shop?
You're talking about equipment or?
It could be equipment, layout, maybe design, staff, things that people around the world right now are watching the interview going, oh, I'm really glad she told me about that because I didn't even think that.
The thing that right now I am dealing with is, for example, the ice machine. I went because, you know, my budget was limited. I went with an ice machine that is like a medium to a small size, thinking, you know, I was used to making snow cones before, but I still do, where I use a lot of ice. But I thought, well, this is tea, I'm not gonna use as much ice, and I will be doing other products with no ice. So I got like the smaller machine, that keeps producing throughout the day. Unfortunately, I bought that machine and I run out of ice on a busy day. So I am considering, because I'm obviously not returning this machine. I mean, it works and it works great for the size, but I will have to buy another machine, and I think I'm going to end up spending a little bit more by buying two than if I would have just spent at the beginning and getting the bigger machine. That's kind of like right now my big problem would be the ice for busy days.
That's a really good point. That's something that I get asked a lot, and I try to convey how much ice that people are actually going to use, and it's
a lot of
almost
ice.
like they can't even comprehend how much ice they're going to go through. But I promise you guys, you're going to go through a lot of ice owning a bubble tea shop.
Yes.
One thing that I've heard in the industry, and I know that it kind of stands true, and you can kind of think about this when you're doing your snow cones, is 1 pound of ice per customer. How did you calculate it out for your snow cones then? Because in the bubble tea world, I would say about ½ pound to a pound of ice per customer.
The way it works for the snow cones, at least in my business, I was like, okay, a 20-pound bag will give me 40 snow cones. So I thought, well, with boba tea, it's probably going to be double because I'm not going to be using that much ice, but mistake. We use a lot of ice.
Okay.
I was wrong.
So you calculated about 20 pounds of ice for 40 snow cones.
Correct.
Would you say that's approximately the same then? 20 pounds of ice for 40 drinks?
Pretty much.
All right.
Well, now I don't have those bags of ice that I buy for the snow cones. Because I have the machine and the machine keeps producing throughout the day. So I'm not really like, okay, I have a standard amount, but what my machine produces is definitely not enough for a busy Saturday.
Well, I do know when you're buying a machine for ice, and this is something important for people out there who are buying an ice machine for their shop. Generally, it will tell you within a 24-hour time period how many pounds of ice that will make. So as a rule of thumb, on the safe side, I generally say for a shop that plans on being partially busy to busy, definitely a 250-pound ice machine. Because that way you know you'll make for sure 250 drinks. But remember, we're calculating that within that 24-hour time period.
Right.
So you're hoping you're going to get 500 drinks, but no matter what, you'll for sure get 250. Because, you know, throughout the day, some of the ice melts. Maybe the machine's a little slow. Maybe the ice level is higher in the morning. The machine doesn't kick in right away.
Correct.
So one thing that I would do on the weekends, and I would train all my staff to do as well, is I would have them come in and scoop all the ice away and forward to get the ice machine going first thing in the morning. That way it starts generating more ice and it starts pumping it out as soon as you're opening, which is something that people like may or may not think of. But as soon as you kind of jiggle the machine, and
yes, because it makes more space, and then the machine, the flap goes up and starts producing more ice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's really smart, and I'm so glad that you brought that up because I for sure know that people are gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a newbie, or I was a newbie. I'm still a newbie. So I'm like, I just saw the machine. It was like on the lower price. Sounded like it was making a lot of ice, and I'm like, okay, I'll buy it. I mean, it's a great machine. It works, but I just wish it was a bigger machine. On the positive side, maybe it's good to buy two machines because if one breaks, you have the other one.
Yeah, that's true. You know, the other thing that you might not know yet, and a lot of people don't know in general, is if you buy an ice machine from a more reputable, higher end company, it will actually come with a warranty or a guarantee. And some of them come with a 6-month to 1 year contractor who comes in, cleans out the machine, vacuums it out, you know, because there's also that area that needs to be taken care of at either the bottom or the top, depending on how the machine is. And so that's something else to consider for someone who wants to buy an ice machine, is looking for someone who has it under warranty or contract and has a repair guy on call and or someone who cleans it every 6 months to a year. And that was something that I bought cheap to begin with, thinking, oh, it wasn't a big deal.
That's what happened to me.
But after the ice machine breaks down once on a busy Saturday, that's it. We're going big, we're going home.
Yes.
So that's what I think you have that tipping point from a level of stress and anxiety. That's when you make that big investment. And you're like, you know what? I just got to go out and get the bigger and the better ice machine.
Correct. I mean, I've only been in business for a month and I'm already starting to encounter that kind of problem.
I totally get it. Okay, I want to come back to a point you said about electrics, because this is another area that a lot of people are not versed in when they're a first-time person owning a bubble tea shop. Bubble tea uses a lot of electricity. You wouldn't know, but it does. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your journey with just electrics and kind of how you outfitted the place?
Absolutely, yes, that is a great point. And that's what also made me run behind on my opening day. Yes, we use a lot of outlets. And it's not just outlets, but I'm not an electrician, but from what I heard and what I've learned is that you need more like breakers. I don't know, you really need to hire a professional. You do need a lot of outlets and they have to have different circuits. Let's say if you're running your shaker and at the same time you're running the blender, the breaker won't pop and then you run out of power. So yes, I did have to hire a professional, an electrician to come and set up all the outlets. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, honestly like 20 outlets like minimum. It's something to consider whenever you are leasing or doing your build out. Definitely look into the power supply.
I want to hit on 2 points from that. The first point was, again, you learn from experience, right? But luckily, when I opened my first shop in Coventry, we had an amazing electrician who explained everything that you just said. Because in my mind, I didn't really know. I said, oh, I'm just gonna throw my shaker here and my hot water thing there. And he said, no, I need to know in advance a blueprint, exactly where every single thing is gonna go. I need to know how much electricity it's gonna use. I don't remember the exact terms. It might have been things like wattage or
voltage,
exactly.
I don't know either.
So what I did was I said, okay, the waffles are gonna go here, hot water there, ice machine here, shakers here, sealer there. Like I had to lay it out for him. And then he said, okay, you know, where is your Wi-Fi going? Where's your CCTV going? Where is your cash register going? All of these things use electricity. So he took everything I told him and he kind of divided it out. And for really, the machines that use a lot of electricity, he put them on different circuits as well, because he knew if they were running at the same time, they might cause it to trip.
Correct.
So that's what he did. And so I remember my circuit breaker box had, I think, 6. I remember it was like 3 and 3 or 4 and 4. And occasionally it would happen, it would trip. And all of a sudden, like the hot water boiler stops and you're like, oh no, what happened? Like you don't even notice it. So you just go over, you flip it up, no big problem. Where you get into difficulty, and I've talked to people who own bubble tea shops, like you said, if everything's on the same circuit, one thing pops it, everything stops. Everything. The freezer, the ice machine, the fridges, it's all down.
Yeah.
So it's super, super important, like you said, to make sure there's as many circuit breakers as possible. It's up on different lines and circuits. Like I'm not an electrician either. I don't know
we need a professional.
Get a professional. Do it right the first time.
Yes.
Plan out and blueprint everything as much as possible, especially when it comes to things that use electricity. And the second point I wanted to make was a lot of people are interested in opening kiosks, and they're very limited on the amount of electricity that they can get to come into their kiosk. So even though they may think, oh, it's only going to take a certain amount of electricity for me to have all of my stuff, they might not think about other things, like you said, like the tripping. What happens if they're in a kiosk in a mall and then something trips?
They probably have to call maintenance, and that probably might take a while for them to get there, figure out the problem, and there's probably a lot of, they're all plugged in through all the spaces or all the kiosks. So, I mean, it's a great idea, and I'm sure it is possible, so I just don't want to discourage people that are thinking on doing that, but it's something that they have to talk to the management prior signing a lease.
And do the research of how much electricity each item uses, and find out from the management company, like you said, how many circuits they're getting.
Right.
Is it just one line in and then they're distributing it? Are they giving a few different lines?
Yeah, they have to come probably and say, this is the amount of power I need in these many circuits. So step 1, talk to the electrician. Step 2, bring that to the management.
Yes, I've actually worked with a lot of clients who have wanted to open or have opened a bubble tea shop kiosk.
Okay.
And there's so many things that they think in their mind as a shop owner, but then when it translates down into a really small space, it becomes very, very limited on how you're going to get fresh water, how you're going to get rid of wastewater, electricity consumption, just every little thing. And then of course the amount of space that you have as well, it kind of goes in half to what you would normally have for a shop.
Right.
So just normal things that we would take for granted, like, we turn on the tap and there's water coming through, we can use it as long as we want while we're washing up. But at a kiosk, you've got maybe a 10 or 25 kilo, I don't know what it would translate to here, but a good sized container full of water will go really fast.
Right.
And the ice machine is the other thing. They don't really have an option of having an ice machine with an automatic water feed. They have to do a manual fill water feed for their ice machine as well.
Or carry the ice bags on a daily basis.
Exactly. So a kiosk is totally possible for a bubble tea shop, and I've seen it done all over the world, especially in malls. But it's just something that you have to go that extra step of planning everything out.
As for my personal experience, I used to be a kiosk, or an RMU they call it, and I used to own candy. I was a candy shop owner. From my previous experience, I don't know in what part of the world, but in the US, you need a commissary because they will require a place for you to wash your utensils and to drain the dirty water. In my case, back in the day, because I was like 10 years ago, I had an agreement with a restaurant that was right next to my space where I had access to the running water. Now the bad side of the smaller RMUs or kiosks are the storage. You are limited in storage. So if you, let's say you place an order of product and then the cases come to the middle of the mall and you're like, I'm in the middle of the mall with 20 boxes here, you have to figure out the storage and plan ahead. Also, I have seen kiosks that they do have running water. Of course, you're gonna have to pay more to have built out. You need to have a permit out of like the center. And those are the bigger kiosks where you have to bring a plumber and the electrician and do all that to have more of like a permanent bigger kiosk. But if you're talking about the smaller, that little carts that are called RMUs, you will probably need help or at least some sort of like agreement with a commissary, in this case a restaurant or any other food facility.
Yes, and I do speak with a lot of people who think if they're gonna get a kiosk or an RMU, a smaller unit, that it will cost them less. But actually, once we start putting all the equipment together and we price out the leasing monthly or yearly and all of the other things that they need to do in order to have that kiosk, sometimes it ends up being about the same as if they had just rented out a shop location or gotten a lease or even purchased a place. I think sometimes people think in their mind that the kiosk option or a really, really tiny, small little thing is the way to go. But actually, if they can find a way to afford an actual physical shop location, sometimes that's better in the long run because it gives people that more of an experience. They can come in, they can grab a drink, they can sit down. Even if it's a smaller unit and it's just a grab and go type situation, sometimes it ends up being better than the daily headache that the people have to go through with planning out the kiosk and actually making the kiosk run. And a lot of times people think, oh, if I get a kiosk, I can just run it by myself. But what they forget is if they run out of water or they got to empty that waste or they need more ice or they need to clean something and they can't do it right now, that they'll have to close it. And they'll have to put up a sign that says,
we'll be back.
We'll be back. And then they just have to walk away. And during that time, 30 minutes maybe, they could have missed a lot of potential customers. Whereas if they just had the shop location, they could have potentially had that customers coming, constantly.
Correct. Well, unless they have, staff in a kiosk.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think definitely in a kiosk, you're probably looking at least 2 staff members.
Yeah, I mean, for like a bubble tea shop, I think 2 staff members would be ideal, if possible. But also, the mall hours, they have longer days, so you have more possibility to sell. Versus if you have your own shop, from other people that I know, they usually have shorter days. But the mall, you're kind of like forced, but it's not like a bad thing necessarily. Because as I said, I had a business there before, so it kind of like makes you open and be constant and build a brand because you are in a center. So it goes both ways. It has the good things and then the not so good things. You have, certain hours that are fixed. You have the name of the center if you're in a good center, so you have guaranteed at least, that people, that flow of traffic. But the bad side of the situation would be if you're in a kiosk, you need 2 members and then the lease and all other things like that.
And also, like a location like yours, someone who wants to get bubble tea, like right now they want to come and get your bubble tea, they'll just drive up, park their car, come in, grab it, and go. Where again, it's like kind of a downside to a kiosk is they're gonna have to like go to the parking garage, find a parking spot, walk in, get to your place, order your drink, go back to their car. There's like more steps for them to get there.
Yes.
But like you said, one of the pros is you've got potentially hundreds and thousands of people a day walking by your kiosk. So surely you're gonna sell bubble tea that day.
Correct.
For sure.
Correct. When I mentioned that I had a small unit in the mall, I had the issue with the ice. So what I did, and for all of the people looking into leasing a kiosk or an RMU in a mall, what I did, and it just worked perfect, it solved my problem. I called an ice provider, call any company in your area, or at least this is how it works here in the US. They provided me with a freezer at no cost, as long as I would buy the ice from them on like a monthly or on a weekly basis. So if you buy like a certain amount of ice, they come let's say every week or every month or every other week to refill your freezer. So you can call the management company before you sign your lease, arrange a place where you can set up the freezer. It could be on the loading dock or behind the scenes. And every morning, the staff member that is opening the shop or the kiosk or the RMU, they can go load up in ice for the day, pretty much. So I think the ice problem can be solved that way.
That's really great insight because I think, in parts of Europe and stuff, ice isn't very popular.
Yeah.
So they may or may not, from experience, have this ice delivery service. But I know actually in America and also in parts of Southeast Asia, they do have this ice delivery service.
Yeah, there's service soda companies or beverage companies that when you buy their products for your store, they will provide you with a refrigerator. Well, it's the same thing with the ice. Just as long as you buy the ice from them, they will provide you with a freezer.
Great.
Or worst case scenario, you just get a freezer, you load it up with ice bags, and problem solved.
That's a really great way to overcome a smaller space.
There's always a way to do it.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's really good. Well, thank you for that insight.
Of course, of course.
Your brand, Boba and Berry. How did that come about? Because that's a very unique name, Boba and Berry. Is it because the fruit teas, you like berry fruit teas? Or how did you come up with your name?
So I came up with Boba and Berry because Boba, we sell boba drinks. So all our drinks, you can select any kind of boba to put in your drink. But we also offer in our menu Acai Bowls. Acai Bowls consider the acai, it's a berry. It is the bowls that we sell. They have like organic granola. Then we have like an acai puree, pure acai. We don't mix our acai with any drinks, with milk, with nothing. You get pure acai and then you top it off with fresh fruit or berries. So the acai is a berry, so since I'm selling the boba drinks and the acai, boba and berry came together.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, that's a great name, and I also like your logo as well.
Thank you.
The logo shows the boba drink and the
berries.
So that's really cute. I really like
Thank
that.
you.
And how do you feel when customers come in? Do they tend to order like an acai bowl and a boba drink? Do they tend to get one or the other? How does that usually work?
Some of my customers don't know what's either an acai or they don't know what is a boba drink. When somebody's just in a rush, they want to get a drink, I kind of walk them through the menu and I explain what like a milk tea is, a fruity tea, what a slush, and then what the toppings are, in this case, all sorts of bobas. There's some people, they're hungry and they want to have like a healthy snack or a healthy breakfast lunch, then they would go with the acai. A lot of people don't know either, and I always walk them through, I describe it, I explain, and I show them much as I can what an acai bowl. But all those people that they have bought the acai or the boba, they have come back.
So it's almost like they come here for one thing and then they go, oh, you've got this, interesting.
Yeah.
The next time they want the other thing, then they know to come back
Yes,
here.
and then sometimes they buy both. Yes.
Perfect. And then which EPOS, which electronic point of service are you using?
I'm using Square. And the reason I use Square is because I've always used Square. Since I used to own the candy shops, I use it also in my current catering business, Cotton Candy Bar. And now, since I'm already familiar with Square, with Boba and Berry, I'm just using Square too.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because I am familiar, I already have everything set up there. So I can't compare it to anything. That's all I know.
I used that brand as well in the UK and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it works perfect.
It was very user-friendly. It has a lot of white-labeled integration if people do want to do the self-serve kiosk iPad, so they can just go up and put through their order, tap or insert their card and pay and go. It's super, super easy. I just really liked them and they had really great customer service as well. So
yeah, they do. I have to check out the self-serve kiosk for sure.
It's a great idea because it does kind of cut back a little bit on staff expenses, but also it really gives the user that kind of customizing their drink, if you will. And they kind of have that different experience as opposed to just going up and ordering. They have the option of going over.
Of course, and then some people that get intimidated too when they order. I mean, we're always there to explain and run them through like the whole menu. But whenever you're in a rush or maybe you already know what you want, I think that's a good idea.
I'm one of those people that, if I go into a fast food restaurant, I will actually go to the self-serve and I like looking through and seeing all the pictures and swiping through and customizing my order. But I do know that for sure there's people who like to come in and they want to go and talk to someone and get explanation and put through their order that way. So
I'm always super happy to do that.
Yeah, it's nice to give people like both options, I guess, if you will. All right, I have 2 questions about acai. What do you sell more of, the acai bowls or the drinks?
I sell more drinks, for sure. I sell more drinks than acai bowls, but the acai bowls have like a higher price point. Overall, the money that comes in will probably be 50-50, but definitely in quantity I sell more drinks than acai bowls.
And then my next question is, how did you get the acai bowl idea to combine with the bubble tea? Where did that come from?
I have the answer right away. The past 3-4 years, I have been a fan of acai bowl ever since I tried it. I tried it here in Tampa. I fell in love with specific acai bowls that a girl used to sell downtown. And I approached her. She decided to go out of business. So before she left, she taught me, I trained with her, and I brought those same acai bowls into Boba & Berry.
Wow,
Yeah.
perfect. So your acai bowls aren't just something that you randomly created, but it's actually a recipe that's been handed down
Yes.
from someone who's been in business for a very long time.
Yes.
That's amazing.
To me, it was like the perfect recipe because I have tried several other acai bowls, whether in Tampa or in other states when I travel, and I haven't found that perfect acai bowl like the one from the girl that, left her business and I took over.
Through experience and through my travels, I've met a lot of businesses who don't just do bubble tea like yours, right? They're doing bubble tea and acai, or like mine, it was bubble tea and bubble waffle. I have also seen, brick toast, crepes, a lot of other things. So do you think, and from experience so far, that having that second source of an item or income or revenue from that other thing is beneficial? So to not just have bubble tea, right? To not just have bubble tea in your shop, but to also have something else that someone can buy, whether it be a food item or an additional item. Do you think that's a good idea?
I don't see why would it be a bad idea. It really depends on your location and the demographics in order to tell you if it's a good idea or not. In this case, I really wanted to sell the acai bowls because I was a fan of the acai bowls and I thought it would be the perfect mix, having the drink and a healthy item. The only way to learn is by trying out. I do think it would be a good idea, yeah. Any other item that you think that would go according to your location or demographics, absolutely.
And I agree with you because I think sometimes just selling a drink, the price point of it can be quite low and the profit margin can be a little lower as well. But if you can also have something that someone can purchase either as an upsell or as a standalone product, then you've got two things on your menu. You've got a drink and maybe a food item that they can purchase also that flows together nicely.
Right.
And then that will help bring up your price per person purchase higher. So rather than someone just buying like a $2 or $3 or $4 item, now all of a sudden they're spending $8 or $10.
Right.
So now you're going to get a little more money from that person as a customer,
right,
as opposed to just being a really
Yeah,
low.
so I think it is definitely a good idea. In my other business that I run with Cotton Candy Bar, I do sell snow cones and cotton candy. But most of the time people buy one or the other. Always having another product, it's just giving more options to your customers. But don't go overboard, giving too many options.
Exactly.
Because then they won't get anything.
I have seen the complete opposite, like you said, where they've got literally everything that you can imagine, and then it's just a little bit overboard. And you're like,
Yeah.
Is this a bubble tea shop, or is bubble tea kind of a secondary thought? Like,
Yes.
What's going on with this?
Exactly.
There's just too much
I just
happening.
feel like when I go walk into a shop and there are too many options, I might not even order anything, or if I don't know what it is, I would just get intimidated.
And the other problem is that kind of weakens the brand as well. It's all about like having that really strong brand that kind of sticks out in people's minds. But if they go to a shop and there's just too much happening, they're like, it's almost like they shut it all off,
Yes.
and then the brand is not important anymore. It's like,
Right.
bye-bye. I'm
Yeah,
done.
it's like sandwiches, popcorn, boba tea, like also,
Everything.
French
Yeah.
fries, like too much.
Okay, do you have any closing thoughts and advice that you want to give people who are going to be opening their bubble tea shop in the future?
Sure. I would say, educate yourself, do a lot of research, watch your videos, buy your documents, ask questions, look around, and you just honestly just have to be really, truly passionate. Whether you're going to open a taco shop, a shoe store, any sort of shop, you truly need to believe in you and the product you're selling. Just if you are truly passionate, just go do it. Just do it. I just wanted to mention for the people that want to open any sort of shop, at least from my 1 month in business experience with Boba & Berry, it has been a roller coaster of feelings. The days that you do great, you're like, I nailed it, that's it. I got it going. And the days that it's slow, you're like, oh my God, I made a mistake, what did I do wrong? Then there's boba shortage. And you're in a panic attack. My brand is called Boba & Berry, and there's no boba. So You know, it's kind of like really like one day you're happy, another one you're worried, another one you're sad, and then you're happy again. But I just think it's part of the process, and I really and truly hope that you will eventually kind of like, it's kind of like entering into the sea when there's like a lot of waves, that it gets like bumpy and rough, but once you're already into the sea, then you can swim in peace. I feel like I am in that point where it's kind of like the waves are coming towards me and I have to jump and survive, and then hopefully one day it will be nice and smooth. Yeah.
Wow, words of the wise. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today. I hope that all of our information was very valuable. And thank you for all of your interview and your information. It was just amazing and you're so knowledgeable.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come all the way here to Boba and Berry. Thank you for the videos. Thanks for everything you do. Thank you so much.
Yep. So please be sure to stay tuned for part 2, where you get a chance to see behind the scenes of Boba and Berry. If you haven't already, click that like button, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment below, and we'll see you again soon. Bye!
Adios.